Okay, so today we're going to dive into something a little different.
Okay.
Yeah, we're looking at this book, Life 101 by Peter McWilliams.
Okay.
And it's kind of interesting. It's not about rocket science or brain surgery.
Right.
Yeah, it's more like um, the stuff they kind of forget to teach you in school.
The basics.
Yeah, like, you can learn all this complicated stuff like how to do your taxes or, you know,
Hmm.
balance a checkbook or whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, nobody really teaches you how to, like, forgive yourself when you screw up, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's so important and so often overlooked.
Yeah, so this book, it's really about those essential life skills, the kind of things that, help you navigate the day-to-day.
Right. The emotional intelligence side of things.
Exactly. And he starts off with this question that I think we've all asked ourselves at some point.
Oh, yeah.
What's the point of it all?
The big question.
Right? And McWilliams, he kind of breaks it down into these three interconnected things,
Hmm.
doing, learning, and enjoying.
I like that. And I think that's a really helpful framework because it emphasizes that these things aren't separate. They all work together.
Totally. So let's start with doing. I mean,
Yeah.
humans are doers by nature, right?
Absolutely. We're constantly active, whether it's physically or mentally. We're always engaged in some kind of activity.
He even tells this funny story about Moss Hart, the playwright.
Oh, yeah.
And he was having his estate landscaped. And he
Mhm.
tells the landscaper, I think that mountain over there needs to be moved just a little bit to the left.
Oh, wow.
And George S. Kaufman, who was there, he quips, yeah, that's what God would do if he had money.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it really highlights how we as humans have this urge to shape and interact with the world around us.
It's true, and it's not just about physical things either. This doing extends to our mental lives too. We're constantly trying to solve problems, make sense of things, create new ideas.
Exactly, and that leads us to learning.
Mm.
McWilliams emphasizes that learning isn't something that just stops when you finish school.
Right, it's a lifelong process.
Yeah, he calls graduation commencement, which kind of reframes it as the beginning of a new phase of learning.
I love that.
Think about everything you've learned since you finished school. All the new skills, the insights, the experiences.
It's amazing when you think about it.
And it's not just about formal education either. It's about learning from our everyday interactions, our mistakes even.
Absolutely. Every experience is an opportunity to learn and grow.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. McWilliams talks about enjoying and how it's actually a key part of learning.
Okay, explain that one.
So he's basically saying that we don't have to suffer through every lesson, that sometimes we can learn through joy and laughter.
Okay, that's a nice thought.
Right, he tells this story about these two brothers who are shoveling manure.
Not the most enjoyable tasks.
Right, one brother is just complaining the whole time, but the other brother is whistling and happy.
How come?
Well, when asked why he's so cheerful, he says, well, with all this manure, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere.
Oh, I get it. It's about perspective.
It's exactly. Even in tough situations, we can choose to focus on the positive, and that can actually make the learning process more enjoyable.
That's a really powerful idea.
And it reminds me of that quote from Confucius, everything has beauty, but not everyone sees it.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Or Wordsworth, to me, the meanest flower that blows can give thoughts that do often lie too deep for tears.
Right, even in the simplest things, there's so much to appreciate and learn from.
Exactly. So
Mm.
McWilliams kind of sums this all up with this core idea. Life is a classroom,
Oh,
but it's not like the traditional classroom, with desks and tests.
it's more like an experiential classroom.
Exactly. It's more like a workshop,
Mhm.
a place where we're constantly learning by making mistakes and hopefully having some fun along the way.
Right, and it's not always about learning what we want to learn.
Yeah, sometimes life throws us curveballs and we have to learn things we didn't necessarily sign up for.
That's true, but those can often be the most valuable lessons.
Totally. So we've got this whole doing, learning, enjoying thing happening, and we're naturally curious. But here's the thing. Why do we sometimes resist learning?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you'd think we'd be eager to learn new things.
Right. Well, McWilliams suggests that a lot of it comes down to our early childhood experiences, especially with our parents or caregivers.
Okay, how so?
Well, if a child is constantly being told, no, don't stop that, always being corrected and criticized,
Right.
they might start to feel like they're not good enough, that they're always doing something wrong.
They internalize that negative feedback,
Exactly. And that can lead to a deep-seated feeling of unworthiness.
which can be really painful.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And so to protect ourselves from that pain, we develop all sorts of defense mechanisms.
ways to avoid feeling unworthy.
Right. And McWilliams, he calls this Club Let's Hide Away from the Hurtful Unworthiness International.
That's quite a name.
Yeah, and he breaks it down into these different chapters, like the rebels, the unconscious, the comfort junkies, and the approval seekers.
Okay, that sounds intriguing. Tell me more about these chapters.
Well, the rebels, they're the ones who always push back against authority. It's like, you tell us we're no good. Well, you're no good.
Okay, the defiant ones.
Yeah, and then you've got the unconscious who kind of retreat into their own world. They might not even be aware of why they're resisting learning. They just kind of tune out.
Right, they're checked out.
Then there are the comfort junkies. They love routine and familiarity, and learning these things can feel scary and disruptive, so they avoid it.
Okay, playing it safe.
And finally, you've got the approval seekers. They're always trying to please everyone else, and they're afraid that learning new things might rock the boat.
So they stick with what they know works.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that most of us don't just belong to one of these chapters.
We're probably a mix of all of them.
Yeah, we might be rebellious in some situations, unconscious in others, comfort-seeking or approval-seeking. It really depends.
It's complex.
Yeah, and these defense mechanisms, they can really get in the way of learning.
Yeah.
The rebels might just reject new information because it came from someone they don't like.
Right, and the unconscious might not even absorb the information in the first place.
And the comfort junkies might find the whole process too stressful.
And the approval seekers might be too worried about what other people will think to really explore new ideas.
Exactly. So McWilliams, he introduces this really thought-provoking concept called master teachers in disguise.
Okay, what are those?
So these are all the things that we typically try to avoid in life.
Yeah.
Mistakes, guilt, resentment, fear, pain, all that stuff.
Right, the not-so-fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But McWilliams, he suggests that these experiences, they can actually be our greatest teachers.
Okay, that's a different way of looking at it.
Right, because when we make a mistake, it shows us what doesn't work, and we can learn from that.
True.
And when we feel guilty or resentful, it might be a sign that we're not living in alignment with our values. And even pain, whether it's physical or emotional, it can be a signal that something needs our attention.
Okay, so it's about reframing these experiences.
Exactly. Instead of trying to get rid of them, we can ask ourselves, what can I learn from this?
It's about finding the lesson in the mess?
Yeah, and McWilliams, he uses this analogy from the musical Showboat, where some people in the audience get so caught up in the story that they forget it's just a play.
Right, and they try to intervene.
Exactly, and he says it's kind of like that with these master teachers. They come disguised as these negative experiences, and if we're too busy trying to escape the discomfort, we might miss the valuable lesson they're trying to teach us.
Oh, I see. So it's about looking beyond the surface.
Exactly. And he ends by asking us to reflect on which of these clubs we might have belonged to in the past and how that might have affected our approach to learning.
That's a good question for self-reflection.
It is, and he encourages us to embrace these master teachers even when they're tough, because they can ultimately lead to deeper understanding and growth.
So it's not about avoiding the hard stuff, it's about learning from it.
Exactly. Well, that's our deep dive into the core ideas of Life 101. Hopefully this has given you some food for thought and maybe even inspired you to look at your own experiences in a new light.
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking about those master teachers in disguise now.
Me too. And remember, Life 101 is full of tools and techniques for eager learners. So if you're interested, be sure to check out the rest of the book.
Sounds good.
Until next time, keep those minds open and curious.
Excellent.